This ugly loser is kicked out from his party after being the most useless member of the group. One day he meets a hot girl who invites him to her party, and later he becomes the strongest of them all. Lloyd is a boy whose entire village got Thanos snapped in the crossfire of a battle with the demon Lord, and now he's just a traumatized orphan with dead eyes and unresolved trauma. Merlin stumbles upon this sad loser and, realizing it was her oopsie that leveled his hometown, adopts him like a guilt-ridden magical raccoon. To make up for it, she takes him in and begins training him in magic. The first lesson is a flame spell, which she shows him for 3 seconds before threatening to skip his dinner if he fails. Miraculously, by nightfall, he produces a tiny flame. Instead of praise, Merlin mocks it and singes his brows with her own magic, though she lets him eat. The next day, she moves to water magic, casually creating a spout with a foot swipe. Lloyd tries and only dampens the ground proudly. Unimpressed, Merlin drenches him to make her point. This pattern of harsh lessons and punishing feedback continues as Lloyd does his best to improve. Surprisingly, her teaching style proves effective. By winter, Lloyd's magic has advanced enough that he casually conjures a snow statue of Merlin with just a flick. She's touched but stays in mentor mode, taking over the sculpture and enlarging it to 30 feet before using it to grab him and show off some real snow control. The sculpture collapses and Lloyd ends up buried, but he gets up laughing and promises to train even harder. Merlin, smiling, nods in approval. Later, after a wild night of drinking, she wakes up with a brutal hangover sprawled on the couch. Concerned, Lloyd checks on her and she admits she feels awful. Wanting to help, he places his hand on her forehead and channels his white magic to ease her pain. Within moments, she feels revived, pulls him into a hug, and thanks him, then immediately drags him outside to resume his training. This routine continues for years until one morning, Merlin receives a mysterious book in the mail that rattles her. Just then, Lloyd arrives to say dinner's ready. As she hides the book, it slips from her grasp and falls in front of him. He bends down to pick it up. The moment Lloyd touches the book, a surge of knowledge crashes into his brain, knocking him out cold. Merlin, shocked by what just happened, realizes Lloyd might be the chosen one. She lays him down to rest, placing a gentle spell on him with a glowing kiss to keep his ego in check. She won't let him repeat her mistakes. The following day, training resumes and Merlin leads him to the woods to try white magic. Lloyd ripens a fruit with ease, earning praise, but Merlin shows how far he still has to go by making the whole tree bloom. That night, while tutoring him, she warns him about orcs that command beasts with rare spells. Lloyd stumbles on a mention of ancient magic, but Merlin quickly shuts down the topic, saying it's not something he needs to know. During another lesson, she teaches him how to summon his magic staff quickly. When he hesitates, she whacks him with hers, reminding him to never slack off no matter how strong he gets. Lloyd vows to stay committed. In the next session, Merlin introduces magic stones, solidified magic energy that can even transform nearby matter into more stones. After a few years, during one of Merlin's lessons, she suddenly drops Lloyd deep in the woods, hands him a knife, and tells him to survive and find his way home, then vanishes before he can protest. Moments later, a white wolf appears and attacks, forcing Lloyd to flee and climb a tree to hide. Knowing his white magic won't be enough to beat it, he decides to sneak his way back instead. Scanning the area with a spell, he realizes he's far from home and begins a slow, cautious trek. At night, he studies his magic to improve it. Days pass until he steps on a twig, triggering a chase from a giant spider. Panicked, he boosts his speed with a haste spell and escapes. Lloyd finally makes it home, collapsing at the door. Merlin finds him and praises his success. Years later, while cleaning, Lloyd spots a book on Merlin's desk about a town, and she lets him keep it when he asks. Lloyd has nearly finished his training, so he no longer deals with Merlin's daily lessons. Still, she often drags him along to help invent new spells since he's gifted at it. He appreciates being treated more like a peer now, but after a week of sleepless nights spent doing research, he's growing tired of the constant grind and still wonders what city life is like. So he makes a bold choice. The next morning, when Merlin comes to fetch him for more experiments, she finds his room empty. Seeing the open book on his desk, she quickly guesses where he went. Lloyd, meanwhile, is exploring town for the first time, awestruck by the energy of it all. But after buying a loaf of bread, he's completely broke and realizes he needs work fast. Just then, an adventurer recruitment flyer smacks into his face and he takes it as fate. He joins up. Unbeknownst to him, a cloaked figure is tailing him with keen interest. Soon after, Lloyd and his new party are atop a castle, preparing to battle a massive cyclops. When Alan, the leader, calls for healing, Sheena moves in. But before she can cast, Lloyd boosts the whole party with his upgraded enhancement spell, lifting everyone's spirits. None of them realize Lloyd caused the power boost, since he stayed silent. After the buff, the archer hits the Cyclops in the eye, and Mag easily blocks a punch, surprised by how simple it was. Alan, unaware of the enhancement, confidently defeats the Cyclops in one blow, thinking it was all him. Only the knight suspects Lloyd had something to do with it. With the monster down, they return to town where Alan is celebrated as a hero, since defeating a Cyclops is rare. The reward is massive, but Alan only gives Lloyd 5 coins, claiming it's fair for a newbie dank adventurer. Lloyd accepts without protest. When Alan proposes a toast, Lloyd quietly leaves, not wanting to join. The mage is annoyed, but Alan brushes it off, saying they can find another white mage since Lloyd didn't help much anyway. Meanwhile, at Merlin's place, a man arrives to report. He tells her Lloyd reached town and joined a hero party. Merlin is glad he's safe and believes it's finally time for him to explore the world. As long as he doesn't end up cocky like she once was, she believes he'll be fine. When asked if she still regrets that day, Merlin's expression darkens, haunted by her past. She hadn't foreseen the Demon Lord's willingness to blow himself up for the magic book, which led to an entire village being wiped out, Merlin included. Cybele managed to revive everyone with forbidden magic, sacrificing his own life, and Merlin has never stopped blaming herself. Meanwhile, Lloyd continues supporting his team behind the scenes, casting buffs during fights to keep their streak alive, though no one realizes how vital he is. That night, Rena is researching defense spells when Alan walks in. She mentions the enemy hits don't feel as heavy lately and wonders why. Alan agrees but chalks it up to talent, though Rena points out he hasn't been training. Elsewhere in the woods, guards wrap up patrols when one suddenly screams. His partner looks up to see a towering golem looming above. In that instant, he realizes he might actually die over a dead-end job. The next day, the guard captain asks Alan for help. Some patrolmen were slaughtered the night before. Alan agrees, thinking it'll be simple since it's just a golem. Using Lloyd's tracking magic, they find it hiding in a cave behind a waterfall, and take it down with ease thanks to Lloyd's support. But a nearby demon uses a magic stone and staff to summon another golem from the cave ceiling. Realizing how dangerous that is, Lloyd casts an accuracy buff and tells Lulu to shoot. She hesitates but obeys, somehow landing the shot. He then gets Mia to teleport the staff to him and seals it with a spell. Alan, annoyed at Lloyd's leadership, charges in to land the finishing blow. Lloyd speeds up and shoves him out of harm's way, saving his life, but Alan just yells at him for interfering. Afterward, Alan kills the golem, fires Lloyd for being useless, and claims he never helps. Years of Merlin's criticism make Lloyd blame himself, so he leaves quietly. For days, he struggles to find a new group. White mages aren't exactly in demand. But just as he's losing hope, a girl named Yu finds him, grabs his hand, and begs him to join her party. Lloyd had been aimlessly strolling through the city, still smarting from being kicked out by Alan. The leader had accused him of hiding behind others and letting Sheena do all the healing. Oddly enough, Lloyd agreed. He hadn't been very capable back then, so he didn't take the criticism too hard. Passing a fountain with his master's statue, he recalled her telling him he wasn't ready yet. Now he finally understood she was right. Meanwhile, the group that was meant to hire a white mage had gathered to raid a gang's wooden base, Dirty Block. The pink-haired girl acted confident, but even she knew this mission was high risk. Though the team was skilled, the enemy was vast, seasoned, and tightly run. Still, the adventurers pressed on. When the mage called for cover, the archer fired with perfect precision. When the warrior nearly got ambushed, the tank blocked the strike just in time. At the rear, a support mage kept the team enhanced. With a single buff, they overpowered the enemy and secured victory. As everything crumbled, the gang leader tried to flee, only to be surrounded by the adventurers, all wearing his own rank's symbol. Cornered, the gang boss made a last stand by summoning a massive stone golem. The adventurers knew magic and arrows wouldn't help much, so their lead warrior stepped up. Her first sword strike only chipped the golem's head. Calling out to Clum for a physical boost, she struck again, this time slicing the monster clean in two. After the battle, Clum apologized for losing focus, doubting if she belonged in such a skilled group. But the warrior reassured her, knowing Clum had her mind on her sister Sylvie's struggles. The next scene jumps back to Lloyd being rejected by the guild's archer, just before a pink-haired girl barges in. The receptionist, desperate to find a white mage, doubted anyone could meet the S-rank team's standards, but the party was ready to accept whoever they could get. Lloyd, just trying to join a team, was suddenly yanked out of the guild by the girl, who dragged him over to the others. Shocked Yu found someone so fast, especially since she didn't know his name. She asked him to introduce himself, and a nervous Lloyd replied. Yu introduced their squad. Dagus, the shield user, Cross the archer, Silica the mage, and herself as the swordswoman and leader. She welcomed Lloyd as the newest recruit, but he quickly denied ever agreeing to join. Silica muttered that she expected this, while Dagus noted Yu hadn't explained the situation. Cross suggested ditching the mission without Clum, but Yu reminded them that the clients were desperate and only a high-ranking team like theirs could even accept an A-rank job. Lloyd was stunned. They were clearly elite, yet Alan had always called him worthless. He doubted he could contribute at all, but Yu remained optimistic, assuring him he had potential. The group asked him to demonstrate a support spell. Nervous under their expectations, Lloyd started sweating buckets, feeling completely out of his depth. To make things easier, Dagus proposed they request a specific spell. Yu then asked him to cast a team-wide buff. Cross and Silica doubted any regular white mage could do that and were ready to drop it. Lloyd asked if this was the only requirement to join, and Yu confirmed. He just had to buff everyone at once. The pressure grew heavier. No one but Yu truly believed he could pull it off. Still, Lloyd inhaled deeply and gripped his staff, ready to try. Out of nowhere, Lloyd's staff appeared, stunning the party as he conjured glowing magic circles that spun and aligned beneath the S-rank adventurer in a vibrant light show. Yu, jaw slack, asked where it came from. He casually replied it was a storage spell, but he wanted feedback on his buff. Yu had no clue it even worked. The others tried to feel something. Only Cross noticed a slight lightness. Their leader tested it by slicing a massive tree in one swing, shocking everyone. Lloyd then listed 5 spells he cast: Strength, Defense, Magic Boost, Mana Efficiency, and Resistance. Thinking it was too basic, he apologized and walked away, thinking he failed. The team quickly stopped him, realizing he'd misunderstood their awe. Later, Lloyd revealed he'd once belonged to the legendary 4-hero group but was dropped for lacking skill. Silica was amazed, but Lloyd downplayed it, claiming any tree could drop 5 white mages like him. Cross can't help but ask where Lloyd got his dollar store confidence. Lloyd suggests they try to bring back their former white mage, Clum, who left the group due to her sick younger sister. Clum had been pushing herself, taking care of her sister daily while still adventuring, until the stress wrecked her health and she collapsed on a mission. She quit, thinking she was driving everyone down. But now going into a ranked challenge without a white mage is risky, so they're hunting for a replacement. Seeing the group still admire Clum, Lloyd feels a bit jealous and asks about the sister's illness. They're not sure, but it's some rare disease that turns the body into Magistone. That rings a bell. His mentor once taught him Magistone is solidified mana that spreads its transformation. Remembering this, Lloyd asks to visit Clum's home. Later, he and the team leader show up, and he immediately brings up Sylvie. Clum explains Sylvie was injured in battle and hasn't woken up since. Lloyd is taken to her room, and as soon as the door opens, he's hit by a surge of dark mana. Clum pulls back the blanket to show her sister, slowly turning into Magistone. Lloyd believes he can save her if his theory is right. Clum doubts him, saying even elite mages failed. Lloyd explains the cause might be a wound Sylvie got from a pure Magistone in a mana-heavy cave. Clum confirms they were mining when Sylvie was cut. Lloyd realizes that mana entered the wound and spread, just like his mentor described. Despite her doubts, Clum lets Lloyd try. He raises his staff and light clashes with the dark energy on Sylvie's body. The force makes him hesitate. He explains he's using a reverse mana transfer to extract the corrupted energy. The transformation worsens because the mana is unstable, so he must reduce it to near 0 or healing won't work. He then adds a unique healing spell that barely uses mana, allowing him to draw out even more while restoring her. Yu asks if this is difficult, and Clum says difficult doesn't even come close. He's casting dual magic and using self-made spells. Lloyd's ability to endure such an immense flow of mana is nothing short of incredible. No average person could survive it. As the healing continues, Yu watches in amazement as Sylvie's Magistone-affected body starts to recover. Once she's fully healed, Lloyd ends the spell and collapses, gasping. Sylvie awakens to see her sister crying, bringing a smile to Lloyd and Yue. Afterward, Clum gratefully thanks Lloyd, promising to adventure with Sylvie again once she's truly healthy. Before parting, she tells Lloyd he's proven himself capable of leading, though he humbly insists he's still not part of the team. That night, the S-rank squad gathers to celebrate Sylvie's recovery, all thanks to the underestimated rookie healer. Despite everything, Lloyd stays modest and quietly wishes Clum would return. As the party continues, Adaggers casually asks what everyone would want to be in a next life. Silica wants to marry and Yu agrees, adding she'd like to become a true hero with a team. Suddenly, Lloyd blurts out a request to join them. The group happily accepts, and their leader proposes a welcome party. Lloyd tries to decline, but Yu insists, leading to playful teasing that she just wants to drink, which sparks a loud, flustered argument. The team quickly gathers to celebrate, and Lloyd is touched by the feast prepared in his honor. Without being overly modest, he eagerly enjoys every dish, praising the local flavors. The others are puzzled since the food is just average by the town's standards. But Lloyd recalls how different things were when he was younger, training under his magic tutor who cooked with herbs and mushrooms. Meat was a luxury. Curious, his friends ask about this mentor. Lloyd says she focused on attack spells and often caused accidental explosions with her wild experiments, though she still taught him a few support techniques. Intrigued, Silica considers asking the mage for advice, but Lloyd warns her it's a dangerous path. Cross assumes the tutor was strict, but Lloyd says she also had a warm, caring side beneath the chaos. Just then, the leader calls for a strategy meeting. Before that, they agree to fill in the newcomer. Yu, bad at explaining, tries to hand it off to Dagas, who reminds her she's technically the leader, but takes over anyway. The shield bearer explains their mission: eliminate monster groups wrecking local farms. Strangely, various species are working together, something adventurers haven't faced before. Cross notes it'll be tough for him and you, and the captain says they'll need Silica's wide-range magic. But Silica warns she can't afford to burn all her mana, so she'll rely on their support. Yu then asks if Lloyd can fight with magic. He says yes, but his attack spells aren't strong. His real strength is in support. Daggers gives rolls, he and Yua will distract the monsters. Silica will cast her area spell, Cross will guard her and Lloyd will boost and heal. Silica says she's curious to see his magic, but Lloyd downplays it, dampening the group's mood. Ute urges him to believe in himself, but he reminds them he was kicked from the hero squad. Cross says he'd rather work with someone humble like Lloyd, and the team agrees. After leaving the tavern, they plan to regroup at the inn. As the veterans head off, Daggers sees Lloyd walking elsewhere. Lloyd admits he can't afford a room. The tank tosses Lloyd a pouch of coins as an advance for their upcoming missions. Grateful for the trust, Lloyd promises to earn every coin, and the shield bearer says that's what he expects. That night, Lloyd reflects on how kind the team is and vows to repay them through hard work. The next morning, the group gathers and waits for Yui, who shows up with a backpack and asks why no one else has one. Cross explains Lloyd used storage magic to carry their gear. Excited, Yu hands over her belongings and Lloyd uses his staff to store them, impressing the team. He even offers to teach them the technique, saying anyone with a bit of mana can learn it. Lightened and in good spirits, they head toward the farms. Daggers later points out that beyond the mountains lies the Megacracy, home of the demons, currently quiet but always a threat. Soon, they reach a deadly bridge, and to ease the tension, Yu throws out a random question. What do you do with water? Prompting everyone to respond. I boil it. I spill it. I freeze it. I throw it. I drink it. I dump it on my head. Seeing Lloyd confused, the captain urges him to give a silly reply too. Lloyd admits it's not something he learned from his mentor. Cross explains the point is to be goofy and laugh at being wrong, while Yu says it helps ease stress on long trips. Lloyd still doesn't get it, so she adds that staying tense just wears people down. She asks another question. What do you call someone who carves a new path? The veterans quickly respond, trail cutter, pathfinder, trail sharer. Lloyd, last to answer, blurts out, I've walked a hard road. It's not great, but he's playing along, and that's enough. Meanwhile, in a forest, a hooded figure prays before a black stone pulsing with chaotic power. Back with the group, since they're traveling light, they reach camp early, set up fast, and prep dinner. Yu asks to bathe, but Daggers reminds her they still need firewood and food. Lloyd offers to gather wood, letting Yu pull Silica toward the water. Soon after picking up branches, Lloyd figures he has enough and heads back. While storing the wood, Lloyd notices fruits resembling the ones his master once magically cultivated. Curious, he tastes one and decides to bring more for the others. Suddenly, a girl screams. He rushes over and sees a massive basilisk emerging near Yu and Silica at the river. The serpent, fast and deadly in water, charges them. The girls try to flee, but it's futile, until Lloyd arrives and launches his spell to distract the creature, giving them time to escape. He throws them their weapons and casts support magic. As the beast strikes again, Yu slashes it clean in half. Still alive, it thrashes until Silica finishes it with a blazing fireball. Yu cheers wildly while Silica wonders how she managed such power. Grateful, their captain thanks Lloyd for saving them, then asks him to retrieve her scabbard across the river. As she gestures, her towel slips off, prompting a shriek. Later, the group gathers to learn storage magic, though Yu, sporting a bright red slap mark, avoids eye contact as Lloyd explains how to use it by opening space between the hands. No one really understands it, but they try anyway, though it gets them nowhere. Lloyd apologizes for being a poor teacher and feeling useless. Daggers tells him not to blame himself, and Cross reminds them they're all still learning. Grateful for their support, Lloyd finally smiles. Then Silica tries saying storage aloud, and it works. Magic forms in her hands. All they needed was a spell. Unlike Lloyd, they need incantations. By late afternoon, Silica stores her staff and earns praise. Cross attempts the same with his gear, but only manages half. That night, the team's white mage sits by the fire while Yu keeps watch, noting the area is clear. Sensing something's off, Lloyd asks her about it. She sits and thanks him for joining the team. He says he had no reason to refuse. Still, the captain feels that she pressured him into helping after caring so much about the mission. When Lloyd asks why she's so invested, Yu reveals it reminds her of home. As a child, her village was destroyed by monsters, and she was the sole survivor. She couldn't ignore reports of monsters attacking farms. Losing crops could devastate small villages. Mid-story, Lloyd hushes her and tells her to wake the others as he grabs his staff. After waking, the group hides in the trees, spotting giant spiders like the ones from their quest. When the spiders head their way, the adventurers try to sneak off, but Yu steps on a branch, alerting the creatures. As they flee, one spider jumps ahead, cutting them off while the others flank them. The team summons weapons and blocks web attacks, but Silica's staff gets stuck. Webs soon cover the area, making movement difficult. Daggers asks for a plan and Lloyd steps up, casting spells to stop the spider's legs and telling Yu to attack. She slashes through the webs, pinning them down. Cross retrieves Silica's staff while Yu shields herself and slices the spider's legs. Another approaches, but she drops it too. As the third attacks, Yu uses the web's force to launch forward, cutting 2 legs. Silica blasts fireballs and Cross's arrows trigger explosions, finishing it off. After the fight, Lloyd apologizes for taking command, but Daggers and Yu say he did well. They agree he should lead. The next morning, everyone packs up, and as they leave, Lloyd wonders about the spider's presence until Yu calls him to catch up. At camp that night, Lloyd kept dwelling on the odd behavior of the creatures. They all seemed to be heading in one direction. Yu broke his thoughts, asking if he'd take night watch again. He agreed, and Silica warned he'd burn himself out. Lloyd insisted on guarding so the others could rest, saying sleepless nights were normal for him, and this was his way of contributing. Yu muttered that he might be more useful than she thought, and Silica gave in as long as he promised to speak up if it became too much. The next day, as they traveled, the swordswoman kept eyeing Lloyd. She noticed him using a fairly advanced detection spell to sense nearby threats. Lloyd didn't think much of it, since its range was small, but planned to use it regularly to avoid ambushes. Yu worried he'd exhaust himself, but he said he'd be fine. She asked if she could help, but when he declined, she felt awkward and admitted there was nothing else she could do. That night, while Lloyd was again on watch, the leader asked Silica if he just didn't trust them. Though always eager to help, Lloyd rarely leaned on others. Silica noted everyone grows at their own pace, reminding the group that even she and Yu weren't close at first. She suspected Lloyd struggled with confidence, needing time to open up. Yu found him puzzling, clueless about normal things but oddly knowledgeable in other areas, which only deepened her curiosity about his past. Silica believed he'd share when ready if they gave him space. The warrior agreed, though still had doubts. Lloyd was unpredictable. Just then, Daggers invited Lloyd for a walk. Lloyd declined, saying he couldn't leave, but Cross offered to cover. Later, Daggers showed Lloyd a line of warning bells set in the forest and told him to rest. Lloyd refused, still on edge. Daggers said that before Lloyd joined, the others handled it fine. Lloyd argued he needed to stay alert to use his magic. Finally, Daggers asked if he didn't trust them. Lloyd, surprised, said it wasn't about trust, just caution. Daggers noted that Lloyd always handled scouting and night watch alone, which made the others feel he didn't trust them. The remark reminded Lloyd of his mentor's harsh words and Alan calling him useless. He explained he just didn't want to drag the team down. Daggers told him that being a burden sometimes was okay. That's what a team was for. Mistakes were expected, but they always have his back. Lloyd, surprised, admitted he never thought that way. When he asked if it was really all right to rely on others, Daggers assured him no one doubted his skills. He then told Lloyd to get some rest before their early start. As Lloyd fell asleep, he warmed to the idea of having friends who truly cared. At dawn, Yu stretched and Lloyd shyly asked if she helped fetch water. She agreed, and the team quietly watched, smiling. Meanwhile, in a mansion, a hooded servant told his master that once the mage stones were placed, he filed a report. The master said the path was now clear, then asked about the adventurers in Ishtar. The servant replied that their summoned monsters had overwhelmed them with requests. Most of the population had already left the city as planned, leaving only weaker individuals and the hero's team behind. The boss wished he could remove them too, but the hero only moved when ordered by the kingdom. Still, it would be entertaining to see how this group handled things alone. A servant was then sent to alert the client and departed from Lord Michel. Meanwhile, with the S-rank team, Yu began feeling uneasy in the forest. The others agreed something was off, especially after Cross noted they hadn't seen a single monster in the deeper woods. Yu asked if Lloyd used magic, but he denied it. He'd only been casting detection spells, which don't repel creatures. Expanding his search, Lloyd sensed a group of monsters 10 miles ahead, near the farm they were heading to. Surprised, Yu recalled Lloyd once claimed he couldn't scan that far. He shrugged, saying 10 miles wasn't much to him. Silica reminded them that was far beyond normal. Despite their unease at Lloyd's strength, the group stayed focused. When they reached the farm, they found a large pack of dire wolves. But Lloyd noticed something stranger. It was the only area where his spell detected any monsters. Where did everyone else go? Silica and the group find it strange. Creatures as strong as these wolves shouldn't be the only ones around. Lloyd wonders about the farm's owner, and Yu explains he was hurt by a dire wolf and is now staying with his son. Suddenly, Cross notices something dark at the center of the farm, though no one else sees it. Thanks to his sharper vision, Lloyd uses a spell to boost his sight, and spots it too. A black stone radiating ominous energy. He enhances everyone else's vision and confirms it's surrounded by beast folk mana. Lloyd recalls his mentor once spoke of beastmen who could control monsters with rare magic, and it looks like this stone is responsible. Soon after it, he senses a massive horde of over 1,000 monsters approaching. He's convinced the stone is drawing them in. Although Cross suggests retreating, Yu insists they can't let the creatures destroy the farmland. When asked if she really intends to face them all, she stays quiet. Dagas doubts they can outrun that many foes, and Silica warns that a fight near town could put civilians at risk. Lloyd decides they should stand their ground and reveals he has a plan, starting with a magic stone. He asks Cross if he can hit it, and though Cross isn't sure he can destroy it, Lloyd says hitting it is enough. With the support mage's enhancement, Cross fires an empowered arrow that shatters the stone. Impressed, Cross asks what Lloyd did, and Lloyd casually explains he boosted the archer, his weapon, and the arrow. Cross is shocked he can enchant all three at once, but Lloyd shrugs it off, crediting Cross's aim. As the stone breaks, the wolves revert to their wild instincts and turn on each other. Yu asks if that was Lloyd's plan, and he confirms the stone was clearly affecting their behavior. However, he had assumed it also controlled the incoming horde, but they're still charging. As the monsters close in, Yu urges action, but Lloyd says it's still not the right moment. The team grows tense under the pressure, but the mage stays composed, waiting for the right time. When three wolves charge at Silica, Lloyd tells her to act. She unleashes a firestorm, stunned by its strength, stronger than anything she conjured before. Yu demands to know what Lloyd did, and he says he boosted her magic and cut the mana cost. The flames engulf the enemies, and Lloyd tells her to cast again, this time followed by wind magic. Cross quickly figures out the wind will spread the fire and obscure the sky, giving them an edge. Lloyd then uses telepathy to relay enemy positions to Cross, who shoots down flying foes with precision. Everything's going smoothly, but Lloyd remains cautious and directs the next move. When Silica says her mana is nearly gone, he transfers his energy to her, nearly passing out himself. With renewed strength, she casts Luvia, summoning a torrential rain that douses the fire, flooding the forest. The effort drains her completely and she collapses, but Dagas catches her. Yu tells her not to worry, they'll handle things now. Silica, barely conscious, tells them not to overdo it, making Yu chuckle at the irony. She praises Lloyd's strategy, but he brushes it off, claiming he just did his job. Realizing Yu wouldn't accept the compliment, Yu readies her blade and Dagas lifts his shield beside her. Meanwhile, Lloyd and Silica lie on the ground, drained. Lloyd, frustrated by his limits, knows he still has a long way to go. A beast woman screams in terror as a demon seizes her. A beastman who resembles her rushes in but fails to stop the kidnapper. Enraged, he roars and swears revenge. Meanwhile, Lloyd, now recovered, realizes the true target is Ishtar. They've all been missiled. As the group prepares to return, the white mage reveals vials of purple fluid, noting the entire mission was likely a setup to lure strong adventurers away and leave Ishtar vulnerable. Though Cross insists the hero and knights remain, Dagas agrees Lloyd's logic adds up. The archer also recalls the strange magistone they saw. Convinced the city's at risk, they head back. Lloyd drinks a potion, casts a buff spell, and sprints off at blinding speed. The others follow, suddenly weightless, as he tells them it was a speed spell. Meanwhile, at a remote estate, the demon brings the beast woman to Michelle, who welcomes a guest called Grist. He asks not to be addressed formally, but Michelle jokes about it. Grist warns that their plan is unfolding perfectly and Ishtar's fall is near. He hopes she'll stay useful, and Michelle agrees she's valuable. They can benefit a lot from her. Grist doesn't fully understand, but knowing the man was once the demon lord's right hand, he trusts his skill. The man says he'll do anything if paid well. Meanwhile, the kidnapped beast girl is now imprisoned. Michelle brings potions, saying it's time to tap into her power. The man activates a dark magistone with a device, beginning his plan. Elsewhere, Lloyd's group hurries toward Vischer. After resting, Lloyd hands out purple potions. Silica worries he'll run out of mana, but he says he's used to it. When asked if he's done this often, he shrugs. It's second nature now. He recalls how his mentor once abandoned him deep in the forest to train. For a white mage, surviving alone meant running and using every buff spell he had. It was brutal, but he got through it. Yu says his childhood sounds rough, but Lloyd just sees himself as still learning. Lloyd believes his harsh training was normal, given how often his mentor scolded him, and thinks it worked well. Yu and Silica disagree, calling it unhealthy. He starts doubting himself, wondering if he's done enough since he's far below his elite teammates and feels the need to push harder. The girls sigh, thinking he's a bit unhinged, but let it go, figuring only a madman understands another. Dagas calls them back to the road, and Lloyd casts layered buffs that accidentally trigger a detection spell. After hours trekking through dense woods, they near Ishar. The girls praise their pace, but Lloyd suddenly stops, causing a pileup. Cross demands an explanation, and Lloyd says he sensed something ominous. He volunteers to investigate alone, but Yu offers to go too. The rest follow, unwilling to leave him. Elsewhere, 4 cloaked figures activate a dark artifact. By nightfall, the group reaches a cabin. He senses nearby demons and someone of another race. Yu, concerned, asks if they're from the Megacracy, which he confirms. Earlier, Dagas had warned that beyond the mountains lies the demon nation. Though they stayed hidden, they could strike to seize the continent. Lloyd recalls demons are banned from the three main nations, but Yu notes the megacracy ignores such laws and has a history of violent invasions. She asks if Lloyd remembers anything about them, but he recalls nothing before living with his mentor as the war ended by then. Silica realizes he's a war orphan. Yu apologizes, but he brushes it off, more worried about a potential ambush. Cross suggests informing the knights later, but Lloyd wants to investigate first. He senses mana matching the Magistone, and Daggis suspects it's linked to the monsters that attacked the farm. Lloyd agrees, saying if Ishur is the target, they must take the risk. Yu supports the plan, though Silica hesitates. Still, the warrior insists they protect Ishtar. The group admires her resolve and agrees this could be the breakthrough they need. The group quietly nears the cabin. Cross checks the window, it's empty. Lloyd senses foes underground with a spell and tells Silica to boost the team. She summons her sandbox and drops the roof onto the cloaked enemies below. Yu rushes in, strikes first, and demands answers. One man counters, flinging rubble with magic, but Yu deflects it. Cross shoots him down as another tries to flee. Lloyd empowers Silica again, and she keeps up the assault. An enemy hurls rocks back, but Daggis blocks them with his shield. Overwhelmed, the enemies try to escape. Yu chases one but runs into an ambush. Cross saves her with arrows. One enemy casts a spell on a captive beast woman, encasing her in a cocoon and trying to levitate her away. The party reacts fast. He runs upstairs as Lloyd orders Yu to cut him off. She and Cross trap him, but instead of surrendering, he unleashes lightning. Lloyd blocks it with shields until one bolt hits the caster himself, knocking him out. After the danger is dealt with, Lloyd dissolves the cocoon and finds a beast woman inside. The group takes her into the cabin, and Silica guesses she might be from the Forest Empire. Based on her appearance, they believe she might know something, so Lloyd tries to heal her. He uses an upgraded version of the powerful spell Yu once saw heal Sylvie. Surprise, Yu didn't realize spells could be enhanced, and Silica is equally amazed. Lloyd explains his eccentric mentor used to make him help modify spells constantly. Everything from anti-aging to foot treatments. The healing works, and the beast woman wakes up. Excited, Yu bombards her with questions until the woman introduces herself as Kureha. Asked why demons captured her, Kureha hesitates, clearly afraid. Lloyd assures her they're adventurers tasked with protecting a farm and sensed beast folk magic nearby. He explains that some beast folk can control monsters, suggesting Kureha might be behind the incident. Eventually, she admits the chaos was caused by her spell. In the forest, two Ishtar scouts discover a giant Magistone guarded by countless beasts. Realizing they can't win, they try to escape, but one is swiftly killed by wolves. Meanwhile, a monster army begins advancing toward the city. At the cabin, the adventurers are shocked to learn a spell exists to control monsters. Kureha reveals demons force her to use it as a weapon, confirming democracy's role in attacking Ishtar, a key city for controlling the continent. Fearing the city's fall, the group hurries back with Kureha. Lloyd feels guilty for involving her, but she insists she's safer with him. After running, they pause briefly, worried they might be too late. Lloyd detects not only a monster swarm, but a full army behind it. Yu asks what to do, and Lloyd requests Kureha's help and tells the others to warn the town and prepare. Though Yu hesitates, Lloyd reminds her teamwork is key. Inspired, the group understands the urgency. The White Mage casts a boost spell, and Yu with Daggis, Cross, and Silica rush to Ishtar, while Lloyd and Kureha head on their own mission. At his brute's mansion, Alan seethed with frustration. Every potential recruit was worthless, even more useless than that so-called trash, and not a single one could use storage magic. Maya grumbled that they could only handle 2 enhancement spells at once, and whispers began about whether Lloyd might actually be extraordinary, though Alan refused to believe it. A royal knight then arrived with urgent news. A massive horde of over 10,000 monsters was moving toward Ishtar, and the army needed their help to bolster defenses. Seeing a chance to prove himself, Alan eagerly agreed, determined to show he was the strongest in the kingdom. Meanwhile, Lloyd and Yua were already tracking that horde, which to Yu's eyes seemed even larger than the force headed for Ishtar. If it joined the main army, the city would fall, so they pressed ahead to form a plan. Their mission was clear: find a way to stop them. Kureha, however, hoped for a solution that spared the monsters, knowing they were under control by someone wielding beast folk abilities, a truth that troubled her deeply. Noticing her concern, the man assured her he would try to avoid causing harm, believing it was always best to settle matters without unnecessary bloodshed. He asked if Kureha could use her magic to send the monsters back, but she said it was unlikely due to their overwhelming numbers. The mage proposed enhancing her magic so they could try anyway, and she agreed. As he prepared his buff, her spell was blocked, making her realize something in the forest was interfering. Meanwhile, at the Adventurers Guild, Alan gathered with the remaining lower-ranked warriors, mocking their abilities and flaunting his superiority since higher-ranked adventurers were absent. His insults riled several members, but he didn't care, even calling them expendable shields. The guild branch director stepped in, reminding them the real threat was the monsters. Unwilling to lose attention, Alan loudly presented his plan, Mages would unleash their strongest spells to wipe out 10 monsters each, infantry would advance to stall the enemy, then mages would fire again. A mage timidly admitted she couldn't cast anything that powerful. One member remarked he could barely handle a single foe at most, which made Alan snap, insisting they should all be capable of far more. Even Maya admitted her magic had weakened and she could no longer cast as before, which only fueled Alan's anger. When pressed, she revealed Lulu, Sheena, and Rena had also lost strength since Lloyd's departure. Alan felt betrayed, but Rena retorted that it was his fault for ignoring their warnings and becoming arrogant, even saying he wasn't fit to call himself a hero. Furious, Alan tried to punch her, but she blocked easily. With the others glaring, he stormed out, followed by everyone except Rena. The remaining adventurers quickly realized he was nothing like the rumors, and morale plummeted. Rena then vowed to leave his party, cut ties, fight on the front lines, and suggested recruiting Lloyd. Meanwhile, Lloyd uncovered the cause behind the enemy hordes, a massive magic stone like the one from the farm carrying a dark power that Kuria said disrupted her spells. Scattered magic stones likely lay across the area, and to regain control they'd need to neutralize them all. The Beast Woman could detect them up close, but the range was too large to search alone. To help, Lloyd linked telepathy with a search spell to extend her senses, then cloaked her with concealment magic so she could approach without alerting monsters, though a heavy hit would dispel it, making caution essential. With this method, they disabled the first stone and moved to the next, while Ishtar's defenses tightened in preparation for the incoming horde. A soldier questioned the plan, and the guild branch director understood every fighter's fate rested on one man. Earlier at the guild, Rena had revealed that Lloyd, the White Mage, was the true backbone of the hero's party, overshadowed by the public's idolization of the hero figure. When asked, a warrior confirmed that Lloyd was the reason for their unmatched strategies and insisted the war could only be won with his aid. The problem was no one knew his location. The director said he was away on an S-rank mission that would take days, though Rena hoped he might return sooner with trial magic, unless that mission was holding him back. She hoped everyone trusted that the mage was acting exactly as needed. In the present, the director confirmed the group had accepted Rena's plan, though unease persisted since all wished to safeguard their loved ones. When the horde arrived, Rena ordered the archers to fire, thinning the front ranks while shield-bearers forced enemies into the trench and mages unleashed fireballs. Water spells then flooded the pit, drowning monsters and deepening the barrier. The strategy was clear: endure until the S-rank adventurers returned. Yu and her team pressed toward Ishtar, strengthened by Lloyd's support magic that kept exhaustion at bay. The White Mage's resolve drove them onward without rest, knowing the city was still under attack. Meanwhile, Lloyd and Kureha reached the final magic stone, guarded by elite wolves and blood panthers. Once the Beast Woman disabled it, the animal's frenzy ended, revealing a new problem. The two predator species turned on each other. Their clash toppled the stone, stripping Kira's invisibility, and every beast locked its glare on her. Lloyd cast a spell to divert the enemy's focus onto himself to protect his ally. At Ishtar's gates, several monsters vaulted the trench and charged the shield-bearers, who blocked and pushed them back. On front lines, Rena, leading the tanks, learned that the right flank had suffered heavy losses, and soon the defenses gave way, letting monsters flood in. At that tense moment, the S-rank adventurers arrived. Meanwhile, Lloyd kept the foes occupied with enhancement magic, though he couldn't overpower them, only evade with skill. Kyrian realized he was risking himself solely to shield her, and in return, she sang, channeling a strange energy that drew the monsters' attention and gradually persuaded them to retreat. When Lloyd asked how, Kureha explained she had simply shared her thoughts with them, not controlled them. They'd exchanged thanks, each having risked themselves for the other, and hurried toward Ishtar. There, the S-rank adventurers bolstered the city's defense, but the endless horde still began to push the front line to its breaking point. Arrows were nearly gone, and the mages had little mana left, yet Rena remained the unshakable figure holding the front line together, giving everyone hope that endurance might lead to victory. But hope couldn't stop the tide. Warriors fell, defenses broke, and the threat only grew. The branch director saw the army's limit reach when Kureha stepped onto the battlefield, her melodic spell weaving through the chaos and calming the feral eyes of their foes until the creatures simply turned and left in peace. Yu's group spotted Lloyd, overjoyed, and the White Mage steadied and exhausted Kureha, impressed by her talent as she admired his support magic. She asked what he had done, and he explained his mana-saving and power-boosting layers, though he credited her for the true feat. The Beast Woman then revealed her real name, Claire, only for stone giants to appear at Ishar's gates, proving the battle was far from over. If you're enjoying the journey of this series, please hit that like and subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any updates. All of your support helps me to keep bringing more high-quality recaps.